Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to identify primary, secondary, and tertiary carbons. So for this particular compound, if you are asked to identify the primary carbon, the secondary carbon, and the tertiary carbon, this carbon, for example, the primary carbon will have only one other carbon connected to it. One other carbon connected to it. So in this case, this carbon here has only one carbon, which is this, connected to it. Okay? So we say that this carbon is primary. And when we do primary, we use like 1 degree to represent that. So that carbon is a primary carbon. Whatever is attached to a primary carbon will then be primary. So if you have hydrogens attached to a primary carbon, you have a primary hydrogen. Okay, so this is a primary hydrogen. If you have an alcohol attached, for example, if we had OH attached to that, this would then be a primary alcohol. Okay, now if we move on to this other carbon, it's attached to 1 and then 2. So it's attached to 2 other carbons. 2 other carbons. That makes this carbon a secondary carbon. If you have anything attached to it, so for example, if you also have an alcohol attached, that makes it a secondary alcohol. Okay? Now, if we move to this other one, which I'm going to use another color to represent. So for this one here, it is attached to 1 carbon here, another carbon here, and the 3rd carbon on my right. Which means that this carbon is connected to 3 different carbons, and that makes this carbon a tertiary carbon. Okay, so whatever is attached to this particular carbon, so for example, this hydrogen is going to be a tertiary hydrogen. And if we change that hydrogen to something else, to probably an imine, so it could be, let's say this was changed to NH2, that would then become also a tertiary imine. So whatever is attached to the carbon that is tertiary becomes tertiary as well. Okay, and finally, this one here is going to be, is only connected to 1. So that is primary. Okay, so that is how you can identify a primary carbon, a secondary carbon, a tertiary carbon. So as a recap, if you have the carbon connected to 1 other carbon, that would be primary. If you have the carbon connected to 2 other carbons, that would be secondary. If you have the carbon connected to 3 other carbons, that would be tertiary. And whatever is connected to that carbon, the primary carbon, whatever is attached to it, be it an alcohol, hydrogen, amine, amide, and so on, is going to become the same as the carbon. Now let's look at the line structure. Now, they gave us this line structure and they're asking us to identify the primary, secondary, and tertiary. Okay? So this is a carbon, this is a carbon, this is a carbon, that's a carbon, this is a carbon, and this is a carbon. So this carbon here is connected to only this carbon, which makes this carbon primary. Okay? Now, this number 1 carbon is connected to only this carbon and this one. So it's connected to 1 and 2. So this makes it a secondary carbon. This one here is connected to 1 and then 2. That makes this one a secondary carbon. Then this one here is connected to 1, 2, and 3. That makes this one a tertiary carbon. Then this Here is connected to only this one. That makes that a primary carbon. This is also connected to only this. That makes it a primary carbon. And that is how you can figure out the primary, secondary, and tertiary on a line structure. I hope this has helped you to learn how to identify primary, secondary, and tertiary. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.